Alright, so today we have a low temperature heat treat. These were all heated to somewhere between 325 and 350. The temperature gauge wasn't quite at 350. Now I got some more temperature gauges in the mail a couple days ago that I'll be rigging these up. These go to 800. I'll be rigging these up, sticking them in here on the rim. This one will be here. I'm going to drill this hole larger. It's got some threads on it. This is for barbecue grills, right? Anyway, I'm going to drill a bigger hole in here, and then probably on this corner. I was going to put one in the back corner, but the way I got this set up on a shelf in my shop, I can't see the back. So I'm going to stick this on the side here, like this. On this corner. See what the difference is between this area and that area. But before I do that, I'll make sure they both read the same in the middle. I'll make sure that they both read the same. Okay? So we won't have any instrumentation error in my experiments. And I'll always be checking to make sure there's no deviation in the instruments. I still have to find my other long stem probe or temperature gauge. I've got two of those long stem, but they only go up to 500 or 550. Okay, I have a feeling like this goes up to 650 because of the insulation on the lid and the dial's messed up. Alright, so this is low temperature heat treat. I gotta test all of this. Probably not all on camera. But I do need to post something. Now, if I get too into my experimenting, I never post anything. So there's a little bit of shine on this. The reason why this is lower temperatures because these are root beer type cherts, and you never know with this type. And this is a darker chert also. A lot of the darker cherts break up. This one isn't going to break up, but it's good to heat them at a low temperature first and make sure there's no fire pops, and then if they need more heat you just put them back in. This one looks fine, so I'm gonna put 345 because I don't think it reached 350. Good. All right, and I took a little flake from right there. So there was a little bit of gloss. It's a high grade chert, and the heat treat made it more glossy. And I think it's good enough. Good enough. If I get to the middle of the Tootsie Pop and it's all cruddy in the middle, it's not nappable like the outside, I'll put it back in. You know, because sometimes, even though I leave it in the roaster for hours and hours, the heat doesn't seem to penetrate the middle. I don't know why. Sometimes it does that. And sometimes it doesn't heat all that great, but if I heat it hotter than 350, it fire pops. So you can't always get a good response with heat. Can't always, but it usually is pretty good. But there are exceptions. And if you're a new guy, beware the exceptions because you're probably the one with the exceptions. Yeah, I've had a lot of new guys say, I followed your instructions exact, and I didn't get the same result. Well, you just probably happen to have the weird chert that I'm talking about. So test it out first at low temperatures. If it doesn't nap well, you think it might need a higher temperature, go ahead and stick some of it back in, not all of it. See if it naps better at the higher temperature. If it breaks up, you didn't ruin all of it. You just ruined some of it. This one looks like it could use some more. But this is a very painstaking process when I'm experimenting with the heat. If I don't know ahead of time what it needs, experimenting is a painstaking process. I can make an arrowhead out of it without heating it more. But if I want to make small, intricate points with deep notches and fine serrations, I probably need to heat treat it again. So I'll stick it in the again pile. And every piece needs to be carefully evaluated. Very carefully evaluated to see if there's any damage by the heat. And I probably should have marked some of these areas, because that might not be a heat pop, but you never know. It might be a heat pop. It might be starting to get damaged by the heat. So if I don't know for sure, I don't put it back in. Yeah, because heat pops look like that sometimes. So if I think that, or if I don't know, if I think there's a possibility that that's a heat pop, or if it's unknown, I won't put it back in. And it may not even look like it changed any kind of luster or any of the knapping properties. It may just be the same or barely any difference, but I'm not going to risk it. So that one's good enough, because it looked like it might have heat popped there. And it's napping all right. This one has a high gloss at that low temperature. This is good. I don't see any heat pops anywhere. So this is 345 degrees Fahrenheit. Good. I'll make a note of that, because if I see any other pieces like this, I'll stick them together and I'll put them in a box or something, so that I know it's all the same material. This is an amoeba chert. I gotta be careful about how I assess this stuff. It has incipient cracks and stuff. But it looks like it heat treated very well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it broke, but I'm going to make little points out of it. This one, that looks, let's see. I don't think that's from heat damage. Sometimes you'll see little pieces that popped out. I don't think that's what this dust is. I think it's just knapping dust that got thrown in there when I dumped a box of rocks in there. I don't think those are heat pop fragments. What are heat pop fragments? Just the way it sounds. Fragments from the heat popping. I think those are just incipient cracks in this case, and I think this is pre-existing crazing. It seems to be napping all right, as long as it doesn't have those pre-existing problem areas. Yeah, I won't have any trouble napping it, except for the existing problem areas. But stick it in the final success pile over here. This is the success pile. Except for these little fragments. The bigger pieces are successful. This one has that too. I forget if it already had that before I stuck it in. In a perfect world, I would label problem looking areas before I heat treat it. You can make this as painstaking as you want. The more detailed you get, the better off you'll be if you have a limited supply, which most people do. I actually have a bunch of this size, so I don't have to worry too much about losing material if I make a mistake. So when you guys do it, if you have a limited supply, you know, put a mark where the problem areas are, so you know where they are beforehand. And when you take it out, you'll know it's not because of the heat treat. Now some of you might be asking, is it possible to heat treat rock that's already been heat damaged in the past? Like if it was in a forest fire in the past and it has crazing, can you still try to heat treat it? The answer is yes. Just go ahead and try it anyway. If it's not napping well, you know, once you get past the crazing, if it's not napping well, you can try to heat treat it and see if it naps better. Just don't stick it all in at the same time, you know, save some just in case you ruin it. Keep some flakes back and don't stick all the flakes in the heat treat. This one is napping well enough that I don't have to put it back in. But I don't know, I might put it back in. I see almost no difference between the old and the new. So I'll put it back in. Yeah. That one can probably stand some more. Even though there's crazing on it, I can probably take it up to the next highest setting. Instead of 350, go to 375 or 400. I'll go to 400 on the next batch. So what I'll do is I'll do this. Let's see. Needs 400. And if I get enough of that needs 400, I'll just stick it all in a batch together. So this is the same stuff as the other stuff. It does have pre-existing issues, it looks like. Which makes me kind of hesitate to stick it back in there. But I think it could be better. As far as nappability, it's still a little tough. I would hate to try to notch this with delicate notches. It still feels pretty tough. Now, if I don't want to make something with delicate notches, then I won't reheat it. Okay, if I just want to make a Clovis or something, I won't reheat it. But if I want to make perdice or delicate scalorn points or something to that effect, it feels like it needs a little more heat. So I can make delicate arrowheads. Although this one, I don't know. This one seems like it's snapping very well. Yeah, easily removing the turtlebacks. I think I'll call that one a success. I got underneath the crazing there, but yeah, I'll just throw that. I'll throw this piece out and keep this as a success piece. All right. It's all subjective. You just decide for yourself what you think is good. And if you got to sit there and actually do pressure flaking and all that, sit there and pressure flake each one. Not just percussion flaking. This one looks like it's a success. So occasionally I'll write there on here 345. Now a lot of people don't want to go through this process, which is perfectly fine. It can get tedious, but it could also be an exciting part of the hobby for you, to turn junk into something nice. Landscape rocks can become very nice arrowheads with translucency and everything. I think some of these are landscape type stones. Yeah. Did you guys see that video on trying to see the sun through a piece of very thin chert? The YouTube short. You can't see the sun through a chert flake, even though it's really thin and translucent. You can't see the sun through it. It diffuses the light too much. But you can do it with Obsidian. I don't recommend sitting there hours and hours looking at the sun through Obsidian. But a few minutes or a few seconds at a time, yeah. This one, I don't know. Does it feel like it's napping easily? Yeah, it is napping easily. Yes, indeed. Although it has inconsistencies in it, I think that one's a success. Yep. I don't want to risk going higher with that one. This one I could probably stick that in for longer. I don't see much change at all. Yeah, not much change in that one. So that's what I would do. I'd spend, 2 or 3 hours checking each one and see how nice it is. Napping a bunch of them, putting labels on everything. Or on the other side of things, you can just throw it all in the yard as a heat treat. Don't even write anything on it. Just know that it's the heat treats pile. And then occasionally when you want something to nap, you just go in the heat treat pile. And you say to yourself, I don't care if it naps or not, or if it was successful or not. I'll start napping on it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll just throw it somewhere where I can heat it again. Low tech, If it naps, it naps. If it doesn't, just throw it back in. Don't label anything. I don't care about what it was heat treated to in the beginning. It could be at 450 degrees and it didn't do anything, and I put it in at 350 degrees. Still not going to do anything because it's actually at a lower temperature. And it might cycle through the process of being napped, sitting in the yard, being napped, sitting in the yard, and keep going through processes and never get better. You know, it doesn't matter. You might get lucky and actually put it in at the temperature it needs. You might decide, well, let's take it up to 600 and see what happens. You might ruin it. But on the low-tech side of a heat treat, you don't care, then it's fine. This one's hard to judge. I don't know. I don't know if I want to risk trying to make it better. Because if it's already good enough, then it's already good enough. It probably could get better. It looks like it was just starting to get a little bit glossier, so it probably could get better. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. I'll stick it in with the I don't know. Let me think about this one. Yeah, it's napping okay. It is napping just fine. All right, that'll be a success. Oh yeah, I got some at the bottom that I want to look at. Some of this stuff, it's at the bottom in the middle. I think this is a success. It's not that great, so even if I do heat it to perfection, it still has internal issues and mess. So it's not worth my time to be heating it a lot. Not worth the money to be heating it a lot. If it naps okay, then it's okay. No sense in spending too much time if there's going to be a lot of defects in it. The reason why I stuck this in here is because it looks nice. It's an interesting stone. There's some nice coloration to it. Yeah. I remember it was pretty bad. Still kind of bad. Still kind of difficult to nap. I don't think 345 did much to it. Although I don't know if I want to mess with it. Did the heat do that? The heat might have done some of that. So it's one of those that even though it might get better in very small areas, most of it is going to break up. If this is heat caused, like if it gets crazing like that, it's just going to ruin the whole thing. Except for little isolated pockets of good stuff. And those little isolated pockets might be too small for anything. Yeah. Let's see. Some concrete does not respond to heat, right? So even if the rest of it is beautiful, you won't be able to nap through concrete, and you'll end up snapping the whole thing, trying to get that concrete off. So it looks like this particular type of concrete is not going to respond to heat. I remember it being a pain in the butt earlier. Still not flakeable. Well, I don't know. It's not. I don't know. It's hard to decide. It looks like it can be flaked somewhat. Yeah, put it in the reheat. This is the snap in half chert, which means it's hard to make anything long out of it. And it didn't respond very well to that amount of heat. It's brittle no matter what. Brittle in a raw state, brittle in a heat-treated state, because this is what I call snap in half chert. So I'll reheat it. It's gonna snap in half either way. Yeah, I'll reheat this too. So I'm not gonna go through all of these. This one glossed up pretty well. Yeah, that's a success. That's a success. Yeah, so this root beer stuff looks like it responded quite well to that lower temperature. Oh yeah. All right, so I won't bore you with the rest of this. This takes an hour or two to go through everything. This is snap and half chert. Let's see. Someone asked me about this book here, Course Technology in Prehistoric New England. Institute for Conservative Archaeology, Peabody Museum, 1981. Let's see what it has. It's got this typeface that looks like a research paper. Yeah, let's see if it has. It does have pictures. Here we go. Dum 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 dum. It even has a scale. Centimeters. Look how thick these points are. You see? Do you see what I mean? That one, and that one. See how thick they are? Look how thick this one is. These are top views, right? Top view. So you can see thickness. Side view. Someone did their homework with these. They have both top view and side views. What are the items? A through C aboriginal triangles showing well-controlled pressure flaking. D through F aboriginal triangles, probably pressure produced from flakes. Let's see. G broken percussion produced aboriginal preform ready for pressure finishing as in B-C. So you can take a snapshot of that. Snapshot of this. Snapshot of that. Okay. There you go there. Here you go here. There you go there. Am I giving you information that's copyrighted? I don't know. I just like showing pictures. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing? I don't know. Who likes this kind of information? Nobody that I know of. What is all this? I have not read this, by the way. I'm just looking at it. Okay. I need to study it. A lot of it's very obvious. It's old hat. Alright, so we got, let's see. What do we got here on, we got some other thing here. Experimental flaking suggests that heat treatment affects the flaking qualities of quartz. The results of these experiments are presented and the effects of time and temperature on flake dimensions are statistically evaluated. Yep. All you heat treat nerds, you're gonna like this, huh? Look at that right there. And there's a furnace programming chart. Do I know what that is? Do I use those? No. There's a flake producing apparatus using a ball peen hammer. Yeah. Steel. Or a copper, I don't know. Look at this. They heat this for 10 hours. It's a little bit of overkill. But that's what they did. And went all the way to 600. Flake data. And then they got these other things. Range of whatever. Correlation coefficients. That kind of stuff. Okay. Alright, so they go into these details that I don't know. I don't know if it's even useful. Ooh, artifact site diagrams. One site diagram. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Quarry block, snapped by torsion, bifacial preform, variable form, preform ending waste, preform with striking platform and point. Okay. That's one way to look at it. Anyway, after about 3 minutes, see, I'm already yawning. Oh goodness. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I read that book. I wish I could read that fast. Well, that's the end of this video. Yep. I'll read it more in depth and try to distill what I can from it as far as the heat treat, and you know, I'll get into hafting some of these points that are super thick. I think I've already tried that, right? I'm gonna do more super thick points on video. Let's see what they look like hafted. A lot of them are pretty ugly hafted, but you'll see. But it doesn't mean they're not effective, especially if you hit a soft target with an ugly point. It still works really well. The thing about making everything nice and slick and smooth is it needs to penetrate fur and hide and fat before it gets to the vital organs. That's when you need a very sharp, excellently slicing type of point, and not something big, fat, and bulky. You need something that will slice in a very efficient manner as it penetrates, so that it can get through the fur, hide, and fat, and sometimes bone before it gets to the vital organs. All right? Okay, so there you go. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, I was looking at the sun again through these. The one that I did in my short video was this one here, but I also tried this flake, which is thicker, And this flake, which is even thicker, I can see the sun with all of these flakes. Alright, sometimes a little bit distorted, right? Because they're not perfectly flat. This one worked pretty well, actually. But you can't see the perfect size of the sun. You know, you can't see the sun perfectly. But it does shield your eyes from the rays of the sun. You can look at it for more than a few seconds. If you were to create blades that have flat faces on them, prismatic blades with a flat face on the dorsal side and flat on the ventral side, you can hold it up to the sun and see it more clearly, which kind of gives you maybe something to think about as to why they were making prismatic blades other than the obvious, you know, shaving with them or cutting meat with them. They may be making those to put over your eyes so you can see the sun. You know, a long prismatic blade made of obsidian of this type. Not all obsidian works the same way. So it'd be worthwhile to see what type of obsidian they were making these prismatic blades from, and if it's the type of obsidian that allows you to shield your eyes from the sun, that would be interesting. Maybe they were prismatic blade sunglasses you could put over your eyes and take them off. You don't know. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna do some bifacing videos. That's what I'll be doing yet. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow. I'm gonna make some new tools. Did I show you this? Yeah, my friend sent me this one. Let's see, what's the diameter on this? I'm gonna shape this one. This is a 2-inch diameter, and it's 7 inches, so I could probably cut it in half, 3.5 inches, and have 2 large billets, similar to the way I use this one, but much bigger for spalling. Okay, all right, and that's it.